All right, so we're here today with Elizabeth Mintz. She's a good friend of mine, and I was sharing a little bit about doTERRA essential oils, and Elizabeth showed up, and I automatically was like, she's my people. She's somebody who I connect with, and I really loved her soul, and so I'm excited to share a little bit about Elizabeth with all of you. And so Elizabeth, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like for you growing up, and about your sister, and just kind of start from childhood and tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. I was born 3 months prematurely, and so I only weighed 1 pound. I had a twin sister who was also born prematurely, and she only weighed 1 pound.
Wow.
My mom had a 4-year-old as well, and my twin and I needed around-the-clock care.
Mm-hmm.
So she found a nanny to help take care of my twin and I.
Uh-huh.
And my nanny actually is from Bolivia. So I consider myself to be both a U.S. citizen because I was born here, and also Bolivian
Nice.
because I was born and raised both in the U.S. culture and the Bolivian culture.
Yeah.
I spoke Spanish and English growing up, and so that's very important for me.
Yeah.
In fact, my family is very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is Jewish. My oldest sister, who is a lesbian as well, is a Jewish rabbi. One of my older brothers is a Buddhist monk and is in Australia. And then I'm a Episcopalian slash Catholic, but also consider myself Jewish by ethnicity, and I've gone to temple before.
Is your mom also Jewish?
No, my mom is Episcopalian.
Okay. And so your dad is Jewish and your mom is Episcopalian.
Yes, correct.
And how did your brother get into Buddhism? How did that come into the mix?
He visited China and other areas in Asia,
Uh-huh.
and just got into Buddhism
Wow.
because of some childhood things and just in general.
He just felt drawn to Buddhism.
Just felt drawn to Buddhism.
And Episcopalian and Catholic, how did that come about for you?
Well, Episcopalian because I was born Episcopalian,
Uh-huh.
and Catholic. This is actually a good story in the end. My dad and my mom both had cancer when I was a teenager.
Oh, wow.
My nanny from Bolivia took me to Bolivia to just get away from everything.
Yeah.
And to relax, to actually see Bolivia, not just be raised in the culture of Bolivia from the United States, but actually to visit Bolivia, to see her family, who I consider to be my family. And we lit candles for my parents in the Catholic churches.
Uh-huh.
And I saw homeless people outside the churches begging for money. And when they were outside the churches or inside the churches, they seemed happy.
Uh-huh.
But when I saw the same homeless people out on the street, they were not as happy.
Uh-huh.
And so I realized God had to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time I stopped believing in God.
Mm.
And I realized God had to exist if there were homeless people who were happy, even though they had nothing, and they were in a developing country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I started believing in God again. And that's why helping homeless people, going and volunteering in my church is very important to me.
And so since then you've been more in the Catholic Church
As well as
from
the
that
Episcopal
experience.
Church. There's some things about the Episcopal Church that I agree with more, and some things about the Catholic Church that I relate to more.
And I love that about you, is I feel like you are always drawn to the goodness in everything, and for you there's not a lot of lines drawn of, well, this has to be right and this has to be right, so I can't be part of this or that, but you take the goodness out of everything.
Yes, I try to.
Yeah.
I still get frustrated about things sometimes, like about immigration and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I try to pray for those who are not always that kind to the immigrants, because sometimes you just need a change in heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, going back to my childhood, I was very blessed. My dad worked very hard as a lawyer and did investments so that my sister and I can get everything we need and then more. And so we grew up on a property with a fair amount of acreage.
Uh-huh.
Back then houses weren't as expensive though.
Yeah.
And I was able to run around play in the pond that my dad built, climb
cool.
trees, go to the tree house. I was able to swim.
Uh-huh.
My mom believed in teaching everybody how to swim.
Yeah.
Even my twin and I, who had disabilities.
Uh-huh.
She thinks everyone should swim. In fact, my mom had people who, like I said, I had my nanny, and she taught my nanny's grandchild to swim.
Oh,
Because
wow.
she said, you know, things happen. If you ever to fall in the pool, you should learn how to swim.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my mom wanted everyone to learn how to swim.
That's how I grew up too. I learned how to swim when I was 8 months old because my mom felt the same way. She made sure we all knew how to swim, and I feel the same way. I think it's really important.
Yes.
And not everybody has that opportunity to learn how, so that's great that your mom was helpful in making sure everybody had that chance, even your nanny's grandkids.
Yes.
That's really cool.
And I love animals, and we had a standard poodle named Bailey,
Uh-huh.
and another one named Puka. But Bailey saved a little girl for my parents. As I said, I was blessed that I got everything I needed.
Uh-huh.
I got to go to private school because I have a disability, and I got a lot of services.
Uh-huh.
And my parents had a cleaning lady, and the daughter fell into the pool, and the dog saved her life.
No way. Jumped in and
Jumped
she
in and
grabbed
saved
the
her
dog.
life.
Wow.
The girl said, I fell in the pool and I almost drowned. And my mom asked, how did they get out? And she said, the doggy saved me.
Wow.
So
nobody was around to see it.
nobody was around to see
Oh
it.
my goodness.
Because my parents were out and my mom came home to it.
Yeah.
So
So when I met you, same as now, you're living in Portland,
yes,
and you're very independent. You find your way around. You do what you need to, and you seem like a normal. I mean, I had no idea that you had a disability, but you explained to me very clearly what your disability is. So why don't you go ahead and explain to everybody?
yes, I'm on the autism spectrum. I have ADHD.
Uh-huh.
I also have a learning disability, in particular with math and directions. In fact, I'm low functioning in those areas.
Uh-huh.
And I have some issues of anxiety as well.
Uh-huh.
So, that's life, and a few other disabilities. Vision issues. I don't have great peripheral vision or great depth perception.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not able to drive. And at the time when I first moved to Oregon, I'll be honest, my parents helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
But now I'm on Social Security and I have a part-time job and I support myself a lot more. I
Yeah.
pay my own rent, my own electric, my own water. I pay for all my own food and for my internet and for any fun activities that I go to.
Yeah. So tell us about what you do for work now.
So because I have a disability, I want to help other people with disabilities.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a home care worker and personal support worker.
Mm-hmm.
That's through the Department of Human Services with the state of Oregon, particularly in Multnomah County, because I live there and that's where my clients are from.
Uh-huh.
And I have 3 different clients with a variety of different disabilities, including one who's a kid.
And what are his disabilities?
I can't really get into too much details, but I can say that they have similar disabilities that I have,
Okay.
and that I can relate to them because of that.
Yeah.
I have clients who have all sorts of disabilities, autism, CP, which is cerebral palsy, and some learning disabilities.
Uh-huh.
Because I can't, as I said, give too much information because of HIPAA,
Yeah.
but I can say that I have clients of a variety of different disabilities.
Yeah.
And I want to show, at least especially the kids, that they can become independent.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super important. So how do you think? What do you think made the biggest impact for you to be able to be as independent as you are growing up? What were the factors that helped you the most?
I would say 3 things. I would say God and my parents. My mom worked tirelessly for my twin and I to get everything we needed.
Uh-huh.
She volunteered at the schools that we went to make sure we got everything we needed. She took us to all our therapies, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, psychological therapy, and many of the other services we had. My mom drove us there. She practiced with us. She taught us that even though we were different, we can achieve our goals.
Yeah.
And always taught us to love ourselves. My dad loved me a lot too. And when my mom was the main caregiver, and my dad worked really hard, even when he had cancer. He had cancer several times and almost passed away.
Wow.
But even when he had cancer, he worked hard. So my sister and I can get everything we needed, my siblings and I.
Yeah.
I'm one of 6 kids.
Okay.
Not all my mom's kids, but, you know, but we consider each other real siblings.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 are from my dad's first marriage.
Okay.
And 3 are from the marriage with my mom.
Okay.
But we all hang out, we all consider each other real siblings.
Yeah.
And some are married now.
Yeah. As someone with with autism, for example, I'd like to just explore a little bit for you what it's like for you with autism interacting with the world. What do you see maybe are some differences between you and someone who doesn't have autism, of how you interact with the world?
First talk about some of the difficult parts and then some of the blessings.
Okay.
Some of the difficult parts is that I have some sensory processing issues. Now, not everyone with autism has sensory processing issues, but many do. So teeth brushing is difficult for me, and chemical smells are tough for me.
Because of the way that it feels?
Because of the way it feels, yes. And I also
Interesting.
don't like saliva and having it on my face.
Uh-huh.
But I came up with a method to brush my teeth and then wash my face to get that off.
Okay.
And I used to run my hand under warm running water without raced water. So now I pray
Okay.
when I brush my teeth.
And that helps with the sensory.
Yes.
Okay.
Chemical smells are difficult for me. There was a lady on the Max the other day. She sprayed perfume and I shook my head and she asked me whether or not I liked her perfume. And I said, I just am on the autism spectrum. So chemical smells are tough. And then some other sensory issues, like if it gets too loud or too crowded, especially at the Apple store when it's closed quarters, that makes me feel a little anxious. But I also like crowds. I just like there to be more space and not be like stuck inside somewhere. I like to be outside in a crowd more, or at a concert, not like in a small Apple store, for example.
Yeah, where you're enclosed and you feel a little trapped, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that. I mean, I don't like that either, but I'm sure with sensory issues it can be even more compounded to have that anxiety. I get anxious when I go into an enclosed space as well. Yeah.
And I went to Las Vegas once for my sister, one of my sister's birthday celebrations, and that does way too much for me with the ding, ding, ding and the flash, flash, flash.
Yeah.
So sometimes when there's too much noise and ding, ding, ding and flash, 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 that's not great for me.
Yeah, so how do you deal with that? What do you do to...
I pray, I take deep breaths, and occasionally I've had a panic attack, so I call my friends, and I just realize that it will pass eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a cat, actually. One of the other things that is difficult for me sometimes is going through security at the airport, especially when they rush me. So I have a service cat that I take with me on planes sometimes, and she helps me to relax.
Nice.
Most people understand, some people don't.
Yeah.
There was one lady at the airport who worked, I don't remember what airlines, and she did not believe me. She did not like the letter. She spent 20 minutes writing down that I can only have the service cat this one trip, and I can't have her any other time. She wasn't even going to let me take the cat on board for free that day, but I said, you know what? My dad's a lawyer, so my dad and my mom taught me to stand up for myself. And I said, you know what? I'm going to contact the ADA and the local media, and I'm going to be having your name out there and the name of the airlines out here if you don't help me out here. Obviously, I have a disability, and the fact that they don't like the letter just because it was written by an organization you don't know much about does not mean that it's okay to discriminate against me.
Right. Yeah.
I also have ADHD, which makes going to sleep sometimes difficult. And I have more energy than most of my friends. And I don't always understand, because of my autism, certain social cues. And why it is that some people need more sleep than others. It's something that I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
And not knowing social cues is difficult because I want to meet a significant other, but I don't understand social cues. I don't understand non-verbal language, and I don't understand body language. And so sometimes meeting people is difficult.
Yeah. I remember when we first met, you explained that to me, and I was really grateful because I had no idea that you had autism, but you said something to the extent of, I have autism, so I don't understand body language or social cues, so just please tell me as clearly as you can. And I really appreciated that because I knew then that that there was an easy way to communicate with you. I just needed to know what the best way was, and so that was really cool that you are self-aware enough that you can explain that to people and still have good relationships.
Well, that's because of my mom, who helped me to be self-aware.
Yeah.
And I get lost a lot because of my disability.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I don't like to go certain places, or at nighttime I get a little nervous. But it's a great service that anyone can access, called Ride to Care or Ride Connection, and they help people with disabilities. I used to not go to my chiropractor, acupuncturist, because I could not get there and I got lost, and they helped me navigate, and now I go there. I used to not go to my best friend's end of the woods to go to movies in Hillsborough because I got lost, and they helped me to navigate there, so now I'm able to go there.
Oh, cool. So is it an app on your phone?
No,
or?
It's a program called Ride Connection.
Uh-huh.
And Ride Connection has travel trainers who help you to navigate. They take the route with you several times.
Wow.
Teach you about safety and give you a card.
Wow.
And my travel trainer is a wonderful lady named Devon.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, I was proud of myself. I used to get very lost going to my acupuncturist.
Uh-huh.
And I was able to go to my acupuncturist from a location I've never left because of the remembering the bus numbers, and was able to get to where I needed to get to because I had such great training from Devon.
That's really cool. And it's a free service.
It's a free service.
Wow.
They used to be able to give rides to people from 8 to 5, and they still can. But the number of rides they give is limited because of budget cuts and funding issues, unfortunately.
So is it a government program?
It's a non-profit, but I think they probably get some government funding.
Uh-huh. So now mostly they just go with you and train you on how to get the public transport and to find your way around. That's great.
So they help people with disabilities, and just people on the street sometimes are willing to help people with disabilities. There's a lot of kind people in Portland.
Yeah.
Some bad people too, but many kind people.
Yeah.
And many nice bus drivers who are understanding of people with disabilities, and just, that's what I love about Portland.
Yeah. So tell me about your hat.
I got this hat in Nicaragua.
Uh-huh.
I went on a mission trip in Nicaragua with my church, the Pixapa Church. 20-day Pixapa Church. We built latrines there.
Cool.
And I just love Nicaragua. I'll say some of the things I love about Nicaragua is that they're very grateful. They might not have as much as we might have, but they love everybody. I'm an immigrant rights activist, and in the 80s, around Contra and other issues, the United States decided to stick their nose where it did not belong and interfere in Nicaraguan elections. And they had a president in Nicaragua, or dictator rather, who was very unkind to the people. He would put people on planes and throw them into volcanoes. He would stretch people out and just torture people. People would disappear, and the United States had a hand in that. And yet the people of Nicaragua are loving and forgiving, and they welcome us with open arms and kindness. When we went to the village, they came dressed in their Sunday best to greet us and to say goodbye to us.
Wow.
And they bought us small little gifts. This wasn't a gift, but I have a much smaller version of this. And they gave that to us one year so that we can keep our heads protected.
Yeah.
There was one man who built a house for his wife with his own bare hands because he wanted to do that to show his wife he loved her. There was another family. The husband passed away. The wife had to go walk in the city, and the brother took care of the kids.
Wow.
Another woman who is a senior citizen. She had never had a latrine. And when we built the latrine, she gave us each a hug and said, "Thank you for changing my life. I will pray for all of you guys."
Wow.
And so just great people in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
So
And have you been down there more than once?
I've been twice to Nicaragua.
Okay.
The second time I did a GoFundMe thing.
Uh-huh.
And so that helped out.
That's great. And Bolivia, how many times have you been
I've
down
been to Bolivia 4 times.
Oh, wow.
And Bolivia is special to me because I found God again in Bolivia
Uh-huh.
when I stopped believing in God.
Yeah. And you have your family
I have
in
family
Bolivia.
in Bolivia, yes.
Yeah. And are they similar ages to you?
Somewhat. Some are older, some are younger.
Uh-huh.
I had Aggie's parents who were like grandparents to me.
Uh-huh.
And Aggie's dad would go and buy me ice cream.
Uh-huh.
And I had a little stuffed animal penguin that he bought me. And I still have it today.
Nice. And Aggie is your nanny?
Aggie was my nanny,
Yeah.
yes. And housekeeper.
Yeah. And now was she a U.S. citizen from the get-go?
No, she was legal all the time, but she had a green card, and then she got her citizenship a number of years ago, and now can vote.
Did she come to the United States through asylum, or how did she?
No, she just came in general,
Uh-huh.
just to have a better life.
Yeah.
I know a lady in college, though, who came as an asylum seeker,
Uh-huh.
and this is why I believe, one reason of many I believe in God. She came to this country from El Salvador. That's another country where the United States decided to stick their nose into where it doesn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
There was actually a priest named Oscar Romero that was killed when he was giving mass.
Oh, wow.
And 12-year-olds were put into the military to fight against the guerrillas. And this woman, we'll call her Miss A
Uh-huh.
for now, because she's still nervous about, telling her true identity. This woman named Miss A was very scared to live in her own country. She had a 12-year-old son who was being eyed to join the military, and a husband who was tortured in jail and almost died. The Red Cross got him out, and so they decided that they needed to cross the border. So they crossed the border, and at the time, the daughter was sick and coughing a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and making a lot of noise. When they crossed the border, you have to be quiet, and she fell asleep right when they were crossing the border, and right when the immigration border patrol was shining their light, they hid in the bushes, and she was silent, and then they crossed the border, and she has since became an asylum seeker and got asylum.
Wow.
But she's still scared to speak out because of what happened in her country, and still afraid, especially now, about what might happen, because Donald Trump is finding people who are asylum seekers and kicking them out, and even people who got citizenship is kicking them out of the country
Wow.
too. So
she's nervous
yes,
that could happen to her.
and people don't come to this country and leave everything behind. Their family, their friends, their memories, they don't leave everything behind just because of choice.
Right.
They don't decide to cross the border to face the desert, to face poisonous snakes, to face coyotes and drug lords. They don't come to this country by choice. They don't choose to cross rivers or oceans just for the fun of it. They come
Right.
because they have to.
They don't have any other choice.
They don't have any other choice, because while I love this country, they make it so that people can't come and live in their own countries.
Yeah.
NAFTA and CAFTA, the war on drugs, and Plan Colombia are just a few of those things.
Yeah. So you're an activism for immigration.
Immigrants for animals. I'm an activist all around.
Yeah. And what's your connection to animals? Why do you?
My brother, the Buddhist monk,
Uh-huh.
encouraged me to be a vegetarian when I was 9.
Uh-huh.
So I stopped eating red meat. And so now I don't eat any meat except for fish.
Uh-huh.
And I'm giving up or limiting dairy.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe in animal testing or wearing any fur or anything like that. I will be honest, I do wear wool, but only from Bolivia and only from locations where I've seen that the animals are taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just an activist all around. I want to speak up for the voiceless. Even though my parents did have some money, I believe money is a necessary evil. And I want a job to help people.
Mm-hmm.
If I have enough money to make ends meet
Yeah.
and to have enough for a rainy day and have some fun, that's what I'll be happy with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hope one day to get a house, but I also am happy living in an apartment.
That's great. And you're doing great in Portland.
Yes. One of my dreams maybe is to get like a big house and then to like let people who are low income or homeless stay there
Yeah.
and create some sort of intentional community where we
Yeah.
all help each other out.
Yeah. That would be cool.
That would
That'd
be
really
cool, yes.
And Portland needs it. We need so much more low-income housing in Portland. And it seems like, I mean, most big cities I go to in the U.S., the low-income housing is lacking. There's just not enough places
Yes.
that people can afford to live in.
And since I'm independent, and I'm being independent, I live in income-based housing because I don't want my parents to run out of money. My parents are older, and they need all the money they need. Because
Yeah.
even if you were successful in the past, doesn't mean you're successful all the time.
Right.
And so I'm independent and have income-based housing because I think independence is important.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you have one thing that you'd like to share with the world, what would it be before we end?
Good question. Let me think about that for a moment. I would say that maybe you need to, the most important things in life are family, friends, and pets. I have a wonderful cat named Sweetie.
Uh-huh.
And God, so just try to do good for the world and do a good deed or a mitzvah. And just be the best version of yourself that you can be. And I don't know, that's what I want to share with the world.
Thank you. Well, thank you
Yes.
for taking the time today.
Thank
It's
you.
been great to talk with you.
Very much.
And I'm really excited for everybody to be able to get to know you more.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.